says in Genesis 2:10, when the garden was filled, the river went out to the world. How much clearer could it be made to us? Adam's choice alters the inflow. So there is no question about the outflow. Everything from that point becomes a religious response. He alters the inflow. And instead of life going out to creation, now it's a substitute of that religious response. Now, here's the precedent of Ezekiel. Go to Ezekiel the 10th for a moment. In Ezekiel the 10th chapter and the 18th verse, then the glory of the Lord departed off the threshold of the house and stood over the cherubims. The glory of the Lord departed from the house. If you read on in that, you'll find out where it rose up and departed. Why does the glory of the Lord depart? Go to the 47th chapter of the book of Ezekiel. Excuse me, to the 43rd chapter of the book of Ezekiel. Look with me at the 7th verse. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places, in their setting of their threshold by my thresholds, and their post by my posts, and the wall between me and them. They have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed, wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcass of their kings from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. He said in the 10th verse, Thou son of man, show the house of Israel that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. What is needed in the church this morning is that we measure the pattern. We must go back and measure the pattern. Let me explain what I'm talking about more clearly. The glory departs. God said this is why. What has happened is, in the departure of glory, is an altering of the flow. God said, here's the remedy. Go back to the 40th chapter. Here's the remedy for this problem. In the 40th chapter, 40 and 3. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a fine flax in his hand, and a measuring reed, and he stood in the gate. And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thy heart upon that I shall show thee, for to the intent that I might show them unto thee art thou brought hither. Because for the intent that I might show them to you, your only reason you're brought here is that I can show you what I'm about to reveal, he said. Now, and the reason I'm showing it to you is because it is your purpose to declare all that you see to the house of Israel. Let them measure the pattern. Here we find a man, brass, like the appearance of brass, dressed in fine linen like the righteousness, and in his hand he has this measuring reed, and God said, measure the pattern and show it to Israel that they might measure the pattern. In other words, God said, here's what I want you to see. Everything that you're going to go over has got an exact standard. We deal with the church today like there is no standard of measurement. It just is about what are we willing to do, because God will accept whatever we do and be grateful for it. He said it is going to be to an exact standard. Is it harsh? Yes, it's harsh, but it's not my reed. It's an exact standard. God said, measure the pattern. Understand the pattern. He said, I'll come back to Ezekiel, but I'm just going to go for a minute to Hebrews, the 8th chapter of Hebrews. In the 5th verse, who serve under the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed thee on the mount. Who showed him this pattern? God showed him the pattern. Now he's saying, don't depart from it. Do not depart from it one bit. Okay? Because it's the shadow of heavenly things. Look with me at 1 Chronicles. At 1 Chronicles, in the 28th verse. First Chronicles 28, 11. And David gave to Solomon the son the pattern of the porch, and of the house thereof, and of the treasures thereof, and of the upper chambers thereof, and of the inner parlors thereof, and of the place of the mercy seat, and the pattern of all had by the and the pattern of all that he had by the spirit of the courts of the house of the Lord, and all the chambers round about, of the treasures of the house of God, of the treasures of the dedicated things, of the courses of the priests. In fact, what it does is it goes down the list, and David said, listen, I'm telling you, everything I'm giving you is that which was given to me by the Spirit of God. I didn't plan any of it. Not one thing in all of this is my planning. God said, here's the way it is, build it this way. Then look with me at the 19th. And all this, said David, the Lord made me to understand in writing by His hand upon me, even all the words of this pattern. God is saying in all of these places, I built this to exact standards, to exact measurements, and it got to be exact. The Spirit of the Lord departs from the house, and God comes in. He said, let me tell you the problem. The problem is there's been some changes in the pattern. Now, he said, I'm going to send my righteous, my Christ, and He's going to come because He's the only measurement. What is Christ? He's the Word made flesh. God is saying, I'll tell you why the Spirit has left the house, and you've had to manufacture a spirit which is not born out of heaven, which did not come from Eden. The reason that you do is there's been a departure from the pattern. When you change the pattern, you alter the flow. God indwelled you for one purpose. He has but one mission, that He could fill you with Himself, and that you could go forth and reproduce the pattern as exact to standards as God was showing us it must be. It's the purpose of God and the mission of Eden, that we would be sons of God, children of God, that we would be gods, that the life of God could come forth in delegated judgment to the world. Judgment must begin in the house of the Lord. In the 41st chapter of Ezekiel, in the 7th verse, and there now was an enlarging. Now, this is what He's doing. God is showing him in a vision. He said, I'm going to show you Christ moving through the temple. Who's the temple today? You are. And he said, now let me show you the way it's supposed to work. He said, Christ is going to, with the reed, is going to be moving through the temple. Okay, read the verse so you can listen to me. Everybody got it read? 41:7.